Right, been here warming up the car to take it for a test drive. Yes, it is fixed. Well, test drive will tell, but I believe it is fixed. So we're gonna take this for a test drive, but before that I just want to make this introduction here. So if you guys think this is not going to be for you, just don't watch it. Throughout this video I was trying to put all the clips together yesterday to start to edit the video, when I realized I've deleted 2 clips by mistake. So it's going to be a point where I'm going to intervene and just talk about it, because again I've lost the footage and I'm still want to try to do something with the footage I have, because it was a quite interesting one, this car, with an interesting twist right at the end. So if you watch the entire video you're going to see what I'm talking about. So yeah, still hope the video makes sense. I will intervene a few times throughout the video, not just for the footage I've lost, but for a few other things as well. Just watch the video and you will understand. So back to the video now. Hi everybody, all my followers, be welcome to another video. And this video today on this Astra J 2010. I'm not sure which engine size is on this, not sure if it's the 1.6 or the 1.8, but we'll get to that in a minute. I've just started recording. I'm waiting for the owner to come and pick up the Corsa D with the wrong engine being fitted onto it. I left the bonnet open so I can show him the engine code, so he doesn't think I'm making this up. Anyway, so this car is the following. This is the story I was told. The car has an engine light, which I've seen when the car was dropped. I was told that if you clear the codes, the engine light stays off for, he said, a couple days, and then it comes back on, and it will stay on until you clear the codes again. The car has been on another garage. They replaced the crankshaft sensor. I believe that's what he said to me. Crankshaft sensor. Clear that code. Change that sensor, and a few days later the code came back on and the engine light came back on. As from here, I'm not sure if he took it back to them and they just didn't want to have a look at it, or whatever happens, I don't know. I just know the car is here now, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to figure out why that engine light is coming on, but not before I connect the Maxi Sys. We'll give it a scan, figure out which engine is on this as well, and see exactly what we have and see how we're going to proceed. And glad I worked on this yesterday and finished it off, otherwise today would have been impossible. Right, my first intervention on this video, and here is the first one, because I believe by mistake I've deleted 1 or 2 clips, and the first clip I've noticed I've deleted was the clip where I've showed you the faults. So you're gonna have to trust me on this one. So scan the car, and the faults on the car was P0016 and P0365. P0016 for intake plausibility or something like that, and P0365 for the exhaust signal circuit or something like that. Was some other codes in there, but the other codes, guys, the car has been messed with, as you're going to see throughout the video. So the other codes, I don't know when they were triggered, so I've just ignored them. But what I've done straight away after was I've cleared the faults, and those 2 codes, P0016 and P0365, they would come back straight away. So with that in mind, I went to check some live data, and I'm going to show you something here which now is going to show working, but was not working at the time. Let me show you what that was, which was this. So the exhaust camshaft position command and intake camshaft position command, both of them were showing 0, and both were showing not okay. I can't remember now, guys, which one of these was showing not okay, but was one for the exhaust and one for the intake, both showing not okay. So with that in mind, I've started to do some basic checks. This car is the one with the VVT system, variable timing, VVT, variable valve timing. I think that's what it stands for. So I've checked it and started to do some checks, and that's where we're gonna carry on now. Okay, so quickly done a resistance measurement on these two solenoids. I've used these little wires to plug them in. They both measure around 10 ohms, which I'm not sure if that's a value, but my experience tells me that it's not too far out, so they should be around that anyway, and they both measure exactly the same. So what am I going to do next? Okay, and a few days later, what I've decided to do next is actually remove the valves and test them, and I'm already not liking what I'm seeing. Right, to start with, I've never seen this on a valve. Can you see these copper wires right there, twisted? There's one there, holding these mesh filters. Look at that. Come on, focus. See those wires? Right, one was already missing on these other valves, so that's the exhaust, that is the intake. That wire was already missing. As soon as I pull this out, that thing just came off, and the wire is actually missing. But there's another one there, as you can see. I'm not really sure why this is. I'm not sure. Maybe someone had these into bits. Maybe I'm not 100% sure. I've tested this valve. This valve is good. I'm gonna test this one now, and then I'll share the results. Okay, so I've been here testing them, both of them, for a good 2 or 3 minutes each. Sometimes these solenoids, they get lazy as you carry on cycling them. I've seen that in the past, where after a few activations they start to get slower and slower to respond. Not the case. I'm gonna put them back without these filters. The filters don't hold in place, and I'm definitely not gonna put these wires back in. I didn't like the fact that one wire was already missing. God knows where that's gone. I'm gonna check if it dropped when I took it out, but it didn't look like. But yeah, I've been doing this. Yeah, you need to be really fast. But I've done the other one already, and now this one. They seem to be actuating absolutely fine. Okay, the actually plunge or pin inside there, you might be able to see in there. It is a little bit scratched, but nothing like sort of too much. But there is a few scratches on them, but they seem to be sealing. I might advise to replace this and go from there, really. But there is definitely more checks I want to do before I do that call. So that's gonna carry on for now. Okay, and another intervention, just to say the following. At this point, I was lucky, as you're gonna see, but at this point I think I jump ahead of myself. What I should have done here, guys, is rather than go straight away removing the cover off, etc, etc, even though it's only like 8 bolts or so, it's not that difficult. But I think what I should have done at this point was to scope the timing. If I would have scoped the timing, even though my scope is only a 2-channel, so I would have to scope crank and intake and then crank and exhaust. If I would have done that, which I did in the end, wait for it, but if I would have done that, I would have seen the problems, the 2 issues, pretty much straight away, and you would probably avoid a lot of the baffling, a lot of the waste of time probably that I went through. Even though it was a learning curve, was a learning for me. I don't claim to be an expert on these things. I'm just a DIYer, guys. That's it. So it was a learning curve for me, and I did a few other mistakes throughout the video. But yeah, at this point, guys, if you have that possibility, scope the timing, and that will show you any problems, which it would have shown me if I would have scoped the car. So carry on watching. Okay, so after that I decided to check the timing. Now bear in mind, I don't have any tools to check the timing. We're just gonna visually checking it, but I can tell it's not looking good already. So let me show you. Okay, so the first thing I've done was aligned the marks here. I don't know if you can see them in there. Okay, so they are pretty much aligned. Okay, engine is at TDC. I've checked with one of these. Okay, with a screwdriver. I know it's not the posh way to do it with the gauge, but that's okay to me. And when I look at the timing, there's two things that don't really match, which is these two marks here. So the way it shows me is that this mark is pretty much where it should be, but this mark should be above this mark, should be up here somewhere, and is right down there. So I think this timing is out. Okay, and this was my first mistake. The timing of this car is not taken from those sprockets. I mean, you can take from those sprockets if they have been fitted correctly, which, as you're going to see, they were not. Now, I didn't realize until later that these sprockets are not keyed. I don't know if that's a word. So they don't have a key to go on the camshaft. They will go on the camshaft on any position, and they will do the job because of the way they work. Anyway, this was my first mistake. So before you go down and start to write comments, just carry on watching if you want, and I will correct this mistake. But yes, this was my first mistake. The engine mechanically was actually timed, so it was just that the sprockets were not fitted correctly, and therefore when you look at the sprockets, it looked like they were out of time, but when you actually look at the back of the camshafts, you will see they are actually timed okay. So this was my first mistake. I will be correcting this later on a video, so just bear in mind that it was definitely a learning curve for me with this car. But yeah, carry on watching and you'll see what I mean. But nevertheless, I'm going to remove the dumper because there is another mark on the timing belt sprocket, and I don't know if this is in the right position, so we're going to remove this and double check, just make sure, just in case if it's the dumper, that is not where it should be. Okay guys, and there is definitely, where's my torch? Oh, it's over there. So there is no doubt now that, I don't need the torch, that my timing is out. So as you can see, remove the dumper, the outer poly, and that's the timing sprocket, that's the mark, and that's the mark on the block. As you can see, they are pretty much aligned, maybe a little bit. Hold on, let me put it a little bit just to the no. What about now? I would say spot on. And as you're going to see, that still completely crap. So that, I think that should be a little bit lower, but not too much. But this one should be above that one, and look where it is. So yeah, we need to adjust this timing, and that's about it really. But for that we need to support the engine, take these out, and this is definitely not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. Right guys, you are gonna absolutely love this. I've actually asked the guy what was done to the car, and he said to me, nothing. So obviously someone has been messing about with those valves. I don't know if I showed you, but obviously with the wires inside, they have marks on the outside, I didn't have to put anything to take them off. I took them by hand. I didn't put any pliers or anything like that. So these valves have been out. We saw the wires inside. I was to put the air filter box in the boot, among other things. And look what is here. You guys know what this is? So obviously this car had a head replacement. Why? Oh dear me. Right, let it go, Louis. Let it go. We'll just carry on. Okay, I'm not going to do anything else to this car today. After what I've seen in the boot, I just thought I need to get things straight. So I rang the guy, the owner of the car, and I told him, mate, look, you're gonna have to tell me exactly what was done to this car, because there's a head in the boot, and you know, I'm sure you did more than just changing a crankshaft sensor, which I believe I mentioned at the start of the start of the video, that someone somewhere changed the crankshaft sensor. Anyway, at this point the guy said yes, a different garage, I believe he said, changed after the crankshaft sensor didn't sort the problem. Someone else apparently changed the sprockets, okay, the VVT ones for the valve adjustments. So these sprockets have been changed from the head that's in the boot. That didn't solve the problem, but let's gonna get things clear. This sprocket is not timed right. I already showed you, so I will show you when everything is timed correctly how it's gonna look like. But at the moment, I already showed you this mark here should be higher than the mark on this side. So this mark is here, the mark on this side is up here, so it's a massive difference. So once it's timed, I will show you. But I was here about a couple of hours ago, and I was talking to colleagues, Igor from Cars Exposed and Nefs from Can Diagnostics. They just pop around. We have had a few beers, etc. Anyway, we were just here. I just opened the bonnet. I was showed them what's going on, etc. etc. We're just talking random stuff. And literally, guys, I was in this side. I was right here in this corner, and I was talking, blah blah blah. We were not even talking about this car. I think we've been talking about it for some time, but we're talking about something else. And then I looked at something caught my attention, and I want to show you exactly what it was. So this job just got way more tricky now. Let me show you. This is unbelievable. So just before I show you, once I would get this sprocket correctly timed, most likely I would be getting rid of the fault for the intake, but the fault for the exhaust, it would remain. Let me show you why now. I don't know how I look at this, I don't know how it happened, but what would happen is I would put everything together, I would still get the fault for the exhaust, I would put the scope on it, and then the scope would show me the problem. And the problem is that, look at that in there. There's a teeth missing. There's a teeth that has been broken. So you should have one teeth right there where that braking mark is. Right there. You should have a teeth in there that's been broken. So this now is going to be a camshaft off, and to take the camshaft you need to take everything at the front for the Valvetronic system. So I said at the beginning, this is not my cup of tea, but I got this far now. Putting it all together to send you away is a little bit of a silly move, so I think I'm gonna have to get it done. Oh well, I can't believe that was broken. Who the hell broke that? And to be honest with you, when you look in there, when I take this camshaft off, I'm going to show you, if I don't forget, that's all cracked in there. It's nearly coming off, it's chipped. So I bear with you when they put the locking tool or something along those lines, that's been put wrong, and they snap that and they snap that. I wonder where that bit is, if it's in the pan or I don't know. It might be that was broken before. I just don't know, honestly. Oh dear. Okay, so good that the bit that is missing is actually trapped down there on this passage. It's stuck in there, so good. So that was broken in here. So we're going to be able to, I'll show you later when we take it out, but it's definitely there. I can see it from here. You can't really see with the camera. I'm not going to be able to focus. So once I have the camshaft out, I will show you where it is. If I don't forget, I hope I don't. But yeah, it's definitely trapped in there. So my question now is, they got the sprockets from the other head. Will we be able to take this camshaft and reuse it? It's a little bit rust, but it's not pitted. It's just, so you see, it's rust, but it comes off. So it's not scored or anything like that. It's just, I think we can still reuse this cam if we give it a good clean. I think it's reusable. As you can see, the tooth is these ones. There's two small ones. One is broken on the other cam. So yeah, I think we should be able to reuse this cam. So I'm going to take it off because just take it off quickly and try to give it a good clean, inspect and see if it's reusable or not. Okay, so this is a week later and I had to stop here to correct some of the information I gave you guys, which I gave you wrong. The Mercedes is just gone. I just finished the Mercedes this morning. I left in this Fiat, and yes, I had to buy a timing locking kit for this car. Yes, it's a China one, it's a cheap one. It's not like I'm gonna use it every day and I need something robust that's gonna last. That's not the case whatsoever. Who knows, probably I will never use it again. But for this time, and as I said, I was too far deep into this to just assemble everything again to send it back, so I just decided that I will do it. Now, the wrong information I gave you, yes guys, I'm not familiar with this kind of stuff. This, I said already, is not my cup of tea. I don't mind to do these jobs, but it's something that I don't really fancy to do here on the floor. It's not easy, and I usually don't really do these jobs. But anyway, the wrong information I gave you was regards to the sprockets out of timing. So that's where I gave you the wrong information, and I've only realized that when I actually took the other cam off from the other head. Up to there, I didn't knew that, and the reason why I gave you wrong information is because the timing on this belt, so the marks that I've showed you on these two sprockets, are completely irrelevant for the timing of the engine, because the way this engine is timed is back here on these two slots, okay? And the reason is because there is no key on this. So this is obviously one I took from the other head. So these pulleys, these sprockets, they have no key. So basically they will fit in any position you put them on, and basically they're going to be in a sort of a center position, and then depending on where the engine ECU makes the oil to go, it will advance or retard the engine timing. But when you initially put this on, it makes no difference. Now, why do they have these marks on why do they have these marks there though? So that little dot in there. Well, that's because if you want to change the timing, if you put everything back on the way you should, which we are going to, if you want to change this timing belt, you don't need to take the rocket case cover off. All you do is you put all this in position, you lock these two, and again they should match. I will show you later. They should match the locking tool that goes here in between these two, and then you can take it off, etc, etc. So that's the only reason why they have these dots. But for timing the engine, that's where you're timing the engine, okay? So yeah, I gave you wrong information there when I said about this being out of timing the engine is not out of timing. The engine is actually proper timed. It's just that I didn't realize these are not keyed, and it doesn't really matter the position where you put them on. They will always do the job right. With that said, I have started to clean this cam. The only thing now, this video is not gonna turn into a camshaft changing or replacement, because I'm not gonna do that. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you through very briefly information about this, because the video was for the problem with the codes, which we found already was a tooth broken. The only thing you need to be careful here, I'm not going to take a step by step. The only thing you need to be careful is when you remove the cam, you start from the outside to the middle. So you take this cap, then that cap, then that, then that. When you put it back in, you do exactly the opposite. You start in the middle, bang, bang, and then bang, bang. I believe these caps, they tie 8 Newton meters, but don't take my word for it. Do your research. I believe it's 8, and then the bearing cap at the end, which is a wall thing that needs to come off, I believe it ties at 6. You need to seal that when you put it back in, so it doesn't leak. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. All I'm going to do now is clean this cam. So as you've seen, these two I have already cleaned them, as you can see. Okay, I'm in the process of doing the other ones now. I'm not using anything abrasive. I'm just using oil and literally just scrub it like this. Where it's a little bit more rust, I go with my fingernail, but that's all I'm doing. I'm not using sandpaper or anything crazy like that. The last thing you want is to scratch any of these cams. So I'm gonna carry on cleaning, and then I might just show you halfway through the process when I'm ready to put this cam back in. But for the main part, that's what I want to do, was correct the wrong information I gave you, and just show you roughly where we are at the moment. And that's cleaned. Look at that, looks brand new. Right, the areas where it doesn't go on the bearings, obviously these areas here, I've cleaned the rest with that brush just to make it look a little bit better. It's not that you're going to look at it, but but yeah, it's all cleaned, all good. There's no damage to it. It's spot on. So now what we're going to do is remove this one out. So obviously we're going to have to take the sprockets off. We're going to lock the engine with the tool. Take the sprockets, take this cover off here, and that's it. I'm not going to take you through, guys. Yes, you need a spanner to hold the camshaft in order to take these off, etc, etc. Put all the tools in place. Again, if you want to know how to change a timing belt, how to do this, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of videos out there for that. So I think the next step is going to be maybe just show you when this is out, and then show you the new camshaft in place. Okay, and we did some progress, and look at that. It was stuck in there, but look at that. Look at the culprit. And that would be somewhere, oh dear me, somewhere in there. Oh well. Okay, we did a little bit of progress. So everything is tied up here. The sprockets are in place, 65 Newton meters, then 120 degrees, then 15 if I'm not mistaken. So you put the tool in place and you align the camshafts, as you can see in there, the dot. Then that mark is just above the line. That's the way it was designed. God knows why. And on this side, obviously, the engine timed. Cylinder 1 at top dead center, with these two valves, with these two cams here facing inside the center of the engine, and these first two here for this first cylinder facing outside. Okay. And yeah, that's where it is. in there as well, obviously timed correctly. Now the timing belt is going to be the same. Don't ask, okay? I can only do what I'm asked to do. Yeah, it's same timing belt, same idler, same seals on the camshafts, same seals, same everything. So, oh well. I said, well, I don't want to dwell too much. I said I would replace all of this. Nope, he doesn't want it. So I'm not going to put the parts for free, that's for sure. So anyway, let's going to carry on, put everything together and see if we have a fix. Okay, all back in place. The only thing left is the cover for that. I will put it afterwards once I have the engine running for a little bit. I want to make sure there's no leaks or anything like that over there. Make sure everything is good. Everything's alright. I gave a full turn. Sorry, I gave 2 full turns to the engine by hand, making sure everything, the pistons are not kissing the valves. It rotated okay, so I think it's now time to give it a go and see how it goes. Okay, I have the maxi Cs here ready to clear some codes before we start up. So let's gonna turn ignition on. I think it's that one. I'm sure it is. Right. Diagnosis, control unit, engine. Right, let's gonna clear any faults before we start it up. Whatever. It's fine. Okay. No fault codes detected. Let's gonna just cycle the ignition. Let's read the codes again. No codes, which is good. Right. Let's gonna start this thing, and one of the two, or he's gonna start, or he's gonna go boom. Right. Ooh. Right. Let's try. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Right, no engine light, which is a good sign. Let's gonna hear this engine running. Oh dear. Doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good to me. So let's gonna let it run for a little bit and see what we have afterwards. We might gonna need to go for a test drive, etc. But we'll see. Let it run. Let it warm up first, and then we'll give another scan and we'll go from there. Okay, and after that I've scanned the car and I couldn't believe P0016 came up straight away. I've cleared the codes, try again, it would come up as soon as the engine would start. Actually, it would come up as soon as you crank the engine. I've disconnected the coil pack and I've cranked the engine, and as soon as you'd crank the engine would set P0016. Whether the engine running after a few seconds would trigger a let me see. So that was the last time I worked on the car, was a few days ago. This is today. There's one code in there, you'll see why in a minute. But this was the last codes I was left with after that, which was P0016 for the crankshaft position, intake camshaft position, not plausible. And then after a few seconds, I think, or after a few restarts, it would trigger that code in there, most likely related. Because and then another thing is, after that, guys, I've tried things like if we'd go on the live data and check the CMP data, the car was definitely adjusting the exhaust camshaft. You could see the numbers in there, etc, etc, but the intake was saying something about the limits not okay, and it would not adjust the camshaft. I then, just to try, I swapped the solenoids, the valves that adjusts the timing, same thing. Then I put my scope, that day I put the scope on that intake valve, solenoid actuator, and the car would try to adjust for about, I think it was about half a second, twice. It would do once, it would do twice, and then it would go off. Then, just to make sure I could load the wire, I put my test light over there along with the scope, and the test light would light up like sort of twice, very quick, and then would go off, and it wouldn't actuate again. So the engine issue was definitely try to actuate that intake, but whatever value we're seeing, it was seeing the wrong value, obviously, and it would just stop. So from there we fast forward for today, and today so I was working for the last 3 days, as you can see, from the 2nd to the 5th. I just came off nights this morning. I had a couple of hours of sleep. Again, there is one code in there, you'll see why, but the car is fixed. Now, it took me, I think it's about 6 o'clock now. Yeah, 6 o'clock. So it took me another few hours to try to understand what could possibly be wrong, because remember, someone worked on this, and I think I know what they did. Now that I've seen something else, and because someone has been messing with this, I went back, checked everything properly, and I think I know what they did. So first, let me show you the first thing. And just before, let me tell you that this morning, obviously I came here, got all these out again, put that on the marks, put the tool in there, still in there, got the cover off, put the bar at the back, and the engine was spot on. And that's when I start to scope the engine, etc, but I'll take you through all that in a minute. But yes, so let me show you exactly what I was about to show you. So this is the camshaft I removed. So this is the camshaft I removed, and with the broken tooth. And can you see, I don't know how good the phone is going to capture, can you look right there at the top, right there in that corner? Can you see how the metal is in there? Can you see that sort of cracking? So to me, they've used the tool here at the back to hold the camshaft to actually undo these bolts here in the middle, when you are supposed to use open spanner here in the front. And by the marks are here, I think that's what they did. They used this here at the back. So that would have put a lot of strength, a lot of torsion on these camshafts. I'm not saying it's twisted, but let me show you something. Right, so I don't have a B4 crank and cams because I didn't record it, but I have, which might help, especially if you have one at hand. You can go and double check. I've scoped the actually cam and exhaust, and this cam and exhaust, when you look at here, so this is a good known crank. And what I want you to look at is, for example, let me see. Can you see, for example, this one here? I'm not sure which one is which, but I think the bottom one is the intake. The top one is the exhaust. And you can see the intake, it meets halfway on this here, on this gap here, on the exhaust. You see, right halfway through. And look at my one. Where's my one? There's one here you can't really see very well, but you can see here is on the side. Let me see on the other one. So you can see here, which is that one in there. So that one there should be bang on in the middle, and you can see it's pushed that way. When I scoped the car, this here, this gap here, when it goes up, this was where it drops. I should have a pen or something like that here. So this one here, as it goes up here, that was back here where it drops. So it would come like this and would drop back here somewhere, and then would go up here. So rather than going up to after the gap here on the crank signal, was actually going up before this gap. And after a little bit of thinking about it, so that now, as you can see, spot on. So this is the intake. As you can see, it goes up straight after the first. You can see there, it goes up after the first raise in there. And you're gonna see there, let me see if I can, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to zoom a little bit more. Yes. This is obviously idling. And as you can see, it goes up straight after the first one. Bang on. Now, what they were doing was, let me show you. Sorry about that, guys, the missus was calling. So what I believe they did, or not what I believe, what they did, because it was visual, so I could take the cover off and show you again. Honestly, guys, take my word for it. If you want, if you don't, you don't. Doesn't really bother me. But anyway, what I found was, when I start to compare, so anyway, the only thing, so if mechanically the car was spot on, the timing was spot on, could only be a couple things that could be wrong. Actually, three things. Either the relector ring on the crank was messed up, but if that was the case, most likely it would trigger me faults for the exhaust as well, because that would be common to both, and I don't have nothing for the exhaust. The only two things is these relector rings. And for my surprise, guys, when I've checked the relector ring that's on the camshaft on the car, can you see, so this slot here is on the side, and you can see this gap here between these two big teeth here. You can see this side here, this edge is nearly aligned with this side of the slot. Yeah. On the other, on the camshaft that's on the car now, before I've done all these adjustments, this was not like this. This, it was, if I'm not mistaken, was all the way back here somewhere. So basically what happened was, this relector ring somehow spun on actually crankshaft. Most likely they might have put the tool wrong, or they might force something on that ring, and they spun this. So all I had to do was, with some pliers, grab this relector ring and just move it to match the position on this camshaft here. So I put it exactly like this one is. I should have taken pictures when I've seen it. I do apologize for that. But honestly, I was having enough. The weather was not very good, and it is not very good. But trust me, that's what I had to do to get this car to time everything okay. And you're going to be able to see now. I'm just going to put everything back together. The fault in there at the moment is because of the airflow meter disconnected. I'm just going to put everything back together and start the car, and I'll show in live data that the car is now adjusting both cams, and that there is triggering no faults, no nothing, and my timing is now that's the last scan I've done to the car. So yeah, guys, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. Unbelievable, but that's what it is. Yeah. If I would know this, gosh, you could never believe that this would spin on the shaft. That someone would, I don't know. I just know that was the problem. That's what I had to do, and it's spot on now, and the car is really happy with it. So let's gonna put everything back on and then, yeah, wrap up this video hopefully. Joining the party is a thread that was ripped. It was ripped when I got the car, but we can't just leave it like that now. So we'll get it repaired and a new bolt. Okay, so everything is back on now. So let's going to clear those codes, and cell engine on, ignition on, sorry. Shut up. So that was the one today. Hurry up. There we go. Okay, so let's kind of scan the car and clear the codes. Hopefully, I think it's only the code for the airflow meter. I haven't disconnected all. Yeah, and the air intake temperature. Yeah. Okay, clear that. Yes. Okay. It's gonna come out of the ECU. Let's start this thing. Okay. Started beautiful. It's gonna go back into the engine ECU and let me show you. So codes, no codes. The P0016 would come up straight away. Live data. I probably should do a couple things here actually. So as you can see, it's adjusting both. So the intake was doing nothing, and then was here somewhere intake actuator solenoid. I'm not sure if it was this one. I'm not sure which one was. That would say not okay. So okay, let's go back. I think I want to do two things here, and I will show you what they are. I want to do a fuel reset, and I want to do a crank position variation learn. Because we've been messing with all of this, so I want to add these two things, and then yes, carry on from there. Okay, all done, all completed, all in place. Did those two resets, the fuel trim and the crank variation, whatever that was. That actually sorted a small problem, because when the engine would come down all the way to idling position like that, the revs would kind of stay where they are, but the engine was, you could feel a little bit of a surging, like but very faint. The crank variation learning sort that out. Car is driving, is running absolutely perfect, as you might be able to hear it. I don't know if you can hear it. Anyway, it is running perfect, no problems at all. The only thing to say is that even after resetting the fuel trims, the long-term fuel trim is quite high. That said, it started at 35 when I initially started the car. It's been dropping down slowly. Obviously, being the long fuel trim, it's going to take a while. Most likely we'll have to drive the car, etc, etc. So yeah, I'm not expecting that value to drop straight away, and I think that the test drive is going to be tomorrow, not just to see if that fuel trim drops, but also to make sure that there is no more timing fault issues, which seems like there isn't, but not until a very good test drive we can be certain of that. So I think that's going to be for tomorrow now. We'll see tomorrow when we go for a drive, so stay tuned. Let's gonna wrap up this tomorrow. Today's too late. I still have some tools to put away, so yeah, but it's nearly there. Okay, I've been driving the car now for about an hour, maybe. I've used all the fuel. Right, it's been driving spot on, absolutely spot on. So I'm just gonna park somewhere and we're gonna wrap up this video. But guys, the car is fixed. So just stopped here. Some people are unbelievable, guys. Honestly, absolutely unbelievable. Right, anyway, been driving the car now for about, let me pull this up, been driving the car now for about an hour, maybe. The car has been driving perfect, no faults, no nothing. Fuel trims, if you remember, they are coming down quite a lot. I've been driving the car and stopping every now and then at traffic lights, etc. And obviously while I'm driving, the fuel trims are absolutely perfect while I'm driving. If I accelerate, as you can see, but driving the car, the fuel trims are really nice. But the first few times I've stopped, if you remember, that was at 33 or 35. So after a little bit of driving, I stopped, and that was down to 26, I think. Then the second time, after a little bit more driving, it came down to about 18, then 16, now it's at 14. So I can only guess that if I carry on driving, they will start coming down, down, down until they get where they should be. But okay, and right here, I just thought to insert this clip now in order for no one out there to have any doubts, and even for myself actually first, to make sure I would deliver the car spot on. I went for another drive in the afternoon, and that's where my fuel trims are sat at the moment. As you can see, they are absolutely spot on. So nothing wrong with these fuel trims. It took a little while for the fuel trims to come down, but yeah, it's been fine now, and I've restarted the car many times, and they are absolutely perfect. The ECU now is quite happy with this. Let me come back. When you want the sun, you don't have the sun. When you don't want the sun, you have the sun. Bloody hell. Right, let me show you if... it just came out. As you can see, there is no fault. The engine is happy with the fuel trims the way they are now. And the car is driving fine. So we have a fix, guys. That was the only problem. Well, the only problems was actually a lot of problems, wasn't it, guys? So, but yeah, I'm really happy that we got a fix and we got there in the end. Now, could we have done something different? Absolutely. Absolutely. What would I have done differently, you might ask? Well, I think at this point, if you go this far, you will know. I would have scoped the engine straight away at the start. I would have to scope crank and intake, and then crank and exhaust, because my scope is only a 2-channel scope. But that would show me straight away that I had a tooth missing on the exhaust camshaft. So, and it would show me that the intake was also out. I would still have to remove the case, the rocket case cover, obviously, to see why the tooth was missing, which then I would see that tooth was broken, and then I would be looking at the reluctor ring on the intake. At this point, however, I didn't knew was a head in the boot, but I would get there in the end, and I guess I would be comparing, as I did in the end, comparing the other camshaft position of the reluctor ring with the one installed in the car, and I would see that they were slightly out. So I would get to the same result, but I would get there quicker. So that's the importance. This is a very good case of the importance of a scope. I don't always use the scope. I sometimes see the scope being overrated, not overrated, but maybe overused in situations that you don't really need a scope. And most of my videos, guys, I try to do stuff without using the scope, because my videos are not intended for the master technicians that knows it all. It's based to you guys, DIYers, at home, try to resolve your own cars, and you might don't have a scope. But this, however, was a very good that was a very good example of how a scope was extremely important, and how a scope can help you. So you don't need nothing fancy though, but yeah, I think it was a very good example of how a scope can be important. That's it, guys, and with no further ado, let's gonna wrap up this. The video is probably about an hour long by now. Car is running fine, no faults, guys, it's perfect, and we got there in the end. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you've learned something. I definitely did learn something. If you do still have any comments, oh my god, I'm sure this video is going to be flooded with comments. I just hope they are constructive. If you have any questions as well, guys, leave them below. Put them below, and like always, thanks for watching.